Now that the heavy lifting's done, comes the fun part of gardening. We're going to dress it up with these beautiful plants beside me. Now these plants here, there's a few different special features. Stuff like this Hardenbergia. This is a local plant. This Hardenbergia, its parent was a wild plant growing in the Cumberland Plain woodland. Seeds were collected under licence, it's been brought into one of the community nurseries and it's been propagated, ready for conservation projects. So by planting local plants which are local to your area from a local nursery that's growing them, you're actively playing a good part in conservation. Not only that, these plants are well adapted for your local climate and soil conditions. So they have low water usage, they like the soil, and they're a great food and habitat resource for your wildlife. But I haven't limited myself to local plants. There's actually a couple other special ones in here as well. Over here, I've got a protea. This protea, although it looks native, is actually from South Africa. It's very closely related to our waratahs, and it's going to play a similar kind of role in this garden. I haven't planted a waratah here because the soils I have in this garden aren't quite suited to it. And over here, we've got a sandgroper, a Western Australian Geraldton wax. This plant, beautiful flowers, it's going to feed the local bees, it's going to be beautiful habitat for the birds, and it's going to pop. It's going to make this place look special. So you can see that I haven't limited myself to plants that are just from this area. But there is a couple of plants that I've steered away from. Things like some of the horticultural or the nursery bottle brushes and the nursery grevilleas, those what we call hybrids and cultivars. I've steered away from them for a few reasons. They flower all year round. They produce lots and lots of nectar, and I like to think of this as kind of like red cordial for birds such as rainbow lorikeets and noisy miners. Now, these birds are native, they're beautiful, but unfortunately, they're really, really aggressive. They're these aggressive urban birds and they like people. And what they do is they actually drive away a lot of the little woodland birds which used to occupy Western Sydney. So I actually don't want to encourage them. They don't need it. So now that these plants are all here, it's time to get them in the ground. Gee, it feels good to finally have the mulch on this job. It does so much for the garden. It suppresses the weeds, it keeps the nutrients in the soil, especially as it breaks down. Make sure that it stays nice and moist. It's brilliant habitat, it keeps it at an even temperature. I'm really happy how this habitat garden's beginning to look. Do you know what though? It's missing a few things. Got some ideas. These glasses make me feel like I'm out of a dodgy movie from the 70s. This is a bee hotel. Now, you don't need to get the saws out, the nails, the screws, the hammers and the glue. You can use anything from PVC pipe, a bit of ceramic pipe. You could use an old microwave, it doesn't matter. All you need is a dry spot that's well and truly insulated from the elements, and it's going to pack the bedding in nice and tight so those bees can get in there and get a little bit frisky. I've got my fennel and my bamboo. It's going to make some great habitat. It's amazing what weeds can do for you. The final room is in the bee hotel. Now, the reason I've created this bee hotel the way that I have is because I'm trying to mimic what happens in nature. I'm trying to make it most appealing to the pollinators that I want to attract to my garden. Now, down the bottom, I've used clay. The reason we've used clay is when you see an overhang like underneath a cliff or a building in this bare earth, often you'll see little holes in there. They're created by things like teddy bear bees and blue banded bees. They'll actually come in and bore their own holes. I've poked a few holes in to encourage them, but within no time this will be jam-packed with their own holes. They'll make their own from scratch. Moving your way up through this piece of real estate, we've got a block of hardwood. I've drilled holes in between 3 to 10 millimetres and to the depth of around 10 to 15 centimetres. The reason for that is these holes would be created by beetle larvae in rotting trees, and many of our native bees look for these spaces to create their nests. Moving your way up, there's bamboo. Now the bamboo that I've used has got little nodes at the end of it, and they're to about the depth of 10 to 15 centimetres as well. Kind of like the same you'd find with native reeds and grasses and some of our bushes out in the bush, because that's where the native bees would also choose to put their nests. Now you'll notice I've actually put some larger spaces in here. That's for things like potter's wasps. And you might be thinking, why do I want potter's wasps in my garden? Well, actually potter's wasps are really good to have around. They're great pollinators, and they're also really good hunters. And they'll fly through the garden looking for caterpillars, and they're going to pack them into their nest and feed their larvae. The same caterpillars that are eating my lettuce. And I've used some pithy fennel in this, and the reason for that is that kind of mimics a rotten tree, and that's what carpenter bees choose to actively build their nests into. Now that it's ready, better get out in the garden, and within no time it's going to be buzzing. Check out the frog towers. Just before the camera was rolling, there were a few frogs. Unfortunately, they've got a bit of stage fright. These are some of the most simple structures to make, and I love making them. I've made many. Now, put it easily, all it is a container that's watertight. I've recycled an old tin pot here. Then I put a bit of gravel in the bottom. Then all I do is I choose a plant. And I try to choose plants that like to have their feet wet. And the reason for that is I kind of want to keep a bit of water in here, because the humidity really benefits the frog. They like living in these things in summer because it's nice and cool, keeps them nice and wet. Then all I do is I sink some sort of tube into the pot, around the plant. Here I've used bamboo. This was once green, now it's got a little bit brown. Or you can use PVC pipe, ag drain, it doesn't really matter. And it doesn't have to be a native plant. Here I haven't used a native plant. I just want it to look really good, so long as it's not invasive. Then I backfill it with a bit of potting mix and I put stones on top. And by doing that, the really good thing is that mosquitoes can't breed in it, but it stays moist. And something I always do, especially when I'm using bamboo, is I drill through the node of it. That's that little partition in the sections of bamboo. That's for a few reasons. Frogs are definitely going to poo in there. And the good thing about that is it fertilises the plant, and the moisture inside that pot comes up through it, keeping it perfect microclimate for the frogs. And the beauty of it is, and the reason I love having frogs around my home, is they go up to the windows and they catch the moths and the bugs trying to get into the house. So they're kind of like a bit of a frontline defence, and you can position them anywhere. It's really nice to place the last bit of habitat, the Frog Hotel, and habitat gardens are great places. They're good places to entertain because you can have the family over and you get the opportunity to see so much wildlife so close to your home. You know, this lizard lounge, it's already got skinks living in it. The bee hotel, in no time, it's going to be a hive of activity, and the frogs have already moved in. And as those bushes and the grasses all begin to grow, it's going to offer habitat opportunities for birds, insects, frogs, and so much more. And I love it because I'm actively helping to conserve the critically endangered Cumberland Plain woodland. It's now time for you to do it in your own backyard.